Welcome back. This is the 6th episode of the Solo Moviegoers Club. This is a podcast in which me, Sean, and my daughter Kaya each have to go see the same movie within 24 hours of each other in a theater. We are not allowed to speak to each other or anyone else about the movie, and we're not allowed to read anything about the movie until we meet here on this podcast and dissect the solo movie-going experience for you and the movie itself. So this week we saw
Saturday Night.
And it was directed by Jason Reitman and written by Gil Keenan. What did you think?
Well, I want to start by saying the whole movie-going experience was crazy to me, but the movie itself reminded me, this is so niche, but it reminded me exactly of the episode in The Office where they had to make a commercial and corporate made it, and they all went to go see it at like Poor Richard's, and Michael was really upset because of like the music, and it was like so generic. This entire movie was shot like that commercial. So if you know what I'm talking about, that's what I'm thinking of. The whole time, that's all I could think of and see.
That's funny. I remember that episode, but I only remember what Michael wanted to do with the commercial, not what the actual commercial looked like. Yeah, this movie was, at one point, I wrote a note that just said anxiety, the movie.
Yeah, the whole thing.
It was, and so first, before we get too deep into the movie, let me talk about my movie-going experience.
Yeah.
So it started off great. I stopped at I was able to walk to the movie this time. It's a big theme on this. I live by 2 movie theaters within walking distance, and I've been driving to see all the movies at the times that work for us to do the podcast. I actually could walk to this, and I had time to stop at my favorite coffee shop and get an iced Americano on the way into the theater. So I was living pretty large. As I'm walking into the theater with the coffee, which they let me take in, no questions, I set the coffee on the counter while I got my wallet out to pay for my ticket, which I love doing. And as I was doing this, a guy walks in. I mean, I don't like to make assumptions, but he definitely had the items you associate with someone who is unhoused.
You're getting
canceled.
canceled.
A suitcase. I know I'm getting canceled. He had a suitcase. He had a backpack. He had all of his stuff with him. Okay, everything.
Okay.
Like, he was either unhoused or he just likes traveling by foot around town and going into random buildings. So anyways, he walks in. He walks right past the ticket booth, looks me in the eyes and says, "I'm going to a movie." And
wow.
the ticket person doesn't say anything about this, which I actually thought was kind of cool. Like,
yeah.
I think there's a lot worse things that people could be doing if they don't have anywhere to go than going and like popping into the movie theater today. So I actually I have some thoughts about this. But anyway,
I have respect for that. That's a good idea.
I have respect for that too. So he rolls into the movie theater itself, the building, and then I don't see him. I go into my movie. I'm sitting, waiting for the movie to start. About 5 minutes into the movie, the guy comes into the theater and he's like, "Excuse me, sir, did this movie just start?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, 5 minutes ago." He says, "Great, thank you." Goes and sits a couple rows behind me. There's only a few other people in this movie, by the way. It was 4 solo moviegoers in the theater.
Wow.
There was a woman by herself, a dude by himself, and then this guy by himself. So anyway, I'll get through the whole part with this guy really quickly before I get into the rest of it. But anyways, for about the first 20 minutes of the movie, it's pretty quiet. And then he opens up his suitcase. And like he's pulling out full-on dishes. Like I've never heard anyone. Yes, he has so much saran wrap. I don't know what he's doing with the saran wrap. I just hear saran wrap wrapping and unwrapping and wrapping and unwrapping.
Did you see what the other people were doing? Did they notice?
I'll get to that.
Okay.
So I was sitting in the front. Everybody was sitting behind me. So I was seeing like heads pop up into onto the screen. But anyways, this movie takes place in the 70s in New York, and I felt like I was at the movie at 1 p.m. So it was a matinee, and I felt like I was at a matinee in a New York theater in the 70s. It felt like that scene where Travis Bickle in Taxi Driver goes to see a movie in the middle of the day. It was just like such a strange experience. So anyways, this guy, I think he must have, I'm piecing this together, but I think he must have saran wrapped his dishes so they didn't break while he rolled them around in his suitcase.
Yeah.
But
okay.
he's unsaran wrapping his dishes and then eating his food. I hear like utensils clanging, all sorts of stuff going on. So the one lady that was in the movie theater was sitting, I think, directly behind him, and she very loudly, I always hate when somebody loudly says something into a theater because like you're interrupting us all too.
Yeah.
Like, you could tap somebody on the shoulder and be polite. Anyway, she goes, "Excuse me, sir, you're being really loud." And not the right move with this guy. Like, this guy had been quiet other than like the utensils, but honestly, like, it was a little curious, the noises he was making, but not much louder than somebody eating popcorn or like opening up Skittles or something. Okay. It wasn't a big deal. It wasn't a big deal at all. It was just unconventional movie theater sounds. And so the guy is like, "Oh, you want me to be quiet?" And I was just like, me and the other guy, I heard him groan. It was like, "Okay, lady, what did you start? Like, why would you do this? Why did you have to set this guy off? We all know where this is going." So anyways, from this point on in the movie, he becomes a very loud movie watcher. He starts commenting on things that are happening. He still lots of saran wrap. Don't really know what's going on with the saran wrap. Goes on the whole movie up until all of a sudden I like hear him pack up his suitcase, and I know because the movie has a ticking clock. The movie is about the first ever live airing of Saturday Night Live, right? So it takes place in 88 minutes in real time. They kick it off from the beginning that the show's going to start in 88 minutes and they don't know what they're going to do. So you know how much time is left in the movie. Anyway, we get to a point where we know there's like 10 minutes left in the movie. The guy packs up his stuff, gets up, goes and stands in the aisle to watch it. And there's a moment where the character that plays John Belushi falls while he's ice skating. The guy laughs, like big belly laugh, and then what did he say? I wrote down what he said. He says he's on that cocaine, and then leaves.
Oh my God.
But it was really interesting because the guy clearly didn't want to see the very beginning and very end of the movie. He had a thing, like he had a process. But anyways, it made for a very interesting viewing because it actually, like, the beef between this lady and this guy and their like passive aggressive noise making back and forth towards one another throughout the movie made for a more anxiety inducing experience. Was actually perfect for this film. So last movie, I had to say in 2 minutes what the plot of the movie was. Your turn.
Oh my God. Okay. You literally explained what it is. It's basically about... You literally explained it.
Wait, I'm going to set a timer. I want to give us a little bit more context. Tell us a little, like, who are some of the characters? What's happening?
Oh, no.
Give us a little rundown.
So...
Give me your elevator pitch for Saturday Night starting now.
Saturday Night is about... Well, I'm not a Saturday Night Live, like, junkie. Like, it's not really my thing.
I'll fill in the names later. So just tell me who the people are, what they're like.
So... It pretty much starts off by the main guy. What is his name? Lorne. And he is pretty much like just really trusting the process of the whole thing. He has nothing figured out, but he remains like he has everything together. Like, he knows exactly how things are going to go. Like, everyone's like, this is gonna fail, this sucks. Like, the whole crew hates what's going on. They're making fun of everyone on set. They're making fun of the cast, the characters, the higher ups from like the network are all there, and he's like a laughing stock. But it turns out to be like this amazing, beautiful thing. There's a ton of people in the audience, and it like things happen really slow, and then within like the last 10 minutes, like everything is figured out, and it's like a beautiful thing. So I don't know, that's all I got, because you pretty much explained it.
It's a yes. Okay, you did it in a minute and 25 seconds.
That's fine.
So yeah, it follows Lorne Michaeled and his cast and crew of misfits that he's sort of been collecting as they try to put on the first episode of Saturday Night Live. And you come to realize, I don't know how much of this is true or not. I really want to look into it now that we've had this discussion. But basically, Saturday Night Live is only allowed to have this one night where they're testing the show because the network is beefing with Johnny Carson, who had a Saturday night show. And so Carson calls and threatens Lorne at one point. The network lets Lorne know they want him to fail. He's like up against every sort of obstacle you could possibly be up against, even some obstacles he didn't know he was up against until that day started. And he just refuses to quit because he loves the show. He has a vision. He loves the people that he's apparently, according to his wife, soon to be ex-wife, who he's producing the show with, these people have been living at his house, and it's like the most legendary comics of all time, right? So it's like Billy Crystal, Chevy Chase, John Belushi, Gilda Radner, Al Franken, who has no, it's not Al Franken. Al Franken's part of it, right?
Let me look. I don't think so.
No, what? God, what's the? Albert Brooks has a film that's part of it. They keep like referencing this film by Albert Brooks that will play. I think I just inserted Al Franken. I don't think he was part of it. But anyways, Jim Henson,
Yeah.
Andy Kaufman, and curiously, but it works really well, Andy Kaufman and Jim Henson are played by the same actor. Did you notice that?
Yeah, I was like really confused by that choice. I wasn't really sure what was going on.
It worked though, because they were both like the ethereal kind of weird guys who didn't fit in with the rest of the misfits. Like there was the very seemingly confident but sort of narcissistic / insecure Chevy Chase. There was the artist John Belushi, who wanted to be seen as like the comedic Brando. There was the writers who just wanted to make it funny and kind of burn the world down with their comedy. And what I loved about it was, well, first of all, did you like this movie?
No, you didn't even let me get into my experience of what happened. I was having a beautiful day, okay? I went all the way to Thousand Oaks, this amazing hike. There was a waterfall, it was beautiful. And I saw, oh, Calabasas Regency. I'm thinking to myself, I'll go see the movie right after this hike. So I get the ticket. It's like $12. My ticket, by the way, is $8. That's unheard of. Normally I pay like $20 for a movie ticket. So $8 was great. I was in a good mood. I sat down. There was only one girl in there with me. It's like an old theater. The Calabasas Regency feels like the Birmingham 8. Like, it feels great. And so I was sitting in there all excited, and the movie starts, and it's good. And 30 minutes in, from the camera angles and like the way that everything is moving, I start to get so seasick, like I'm at the observatory or something. And I actually had to take breaks and go out to the bathroom in the hall and like try not to puke. Like, it was so bad. I liked the movie until that point, I feel. So
What was your coffee situation?
I had a coffee. They let me take it in. Sweet old people working there. I mean, there was no one in there. It was great.
You didn't have to sneak it in last
No,
time
I'm
like you
going
did with
there
the shopping
next time.
bag?
That's going to be my new spot. That's a great
Really?
movie theater. It was so
Is it-
comfortable.
Is it like old style seats or new style seats?
New style seats, but old style theater, like the draping and stuff.
A marquee.
Yeah. Even like the little lobby was really old school looking.
So it's exactly like Birmingham 8.
Yeah, exactly.
Super cool. And sorry, those are really specific local references to where we both live, but you
Yeah.
all know what we're talking
Doxed.
about. There's multiplexes, and then there's the charming old theaters, which sometimes have been updated a little. Sometimes they still have the old velvet seats. But
Yeah.
when you find an old charming theater that's been updated, you have scored.
Yeah, it's perfect.
I get what you're saying because it was all handheld.
Yeah.
Well, mostly handheld.
Normally
it was very...
I appreciate that. I love that. But this time it was like so much back and forth that it really tripped up my eyes or something.
And all the overlapping dialogue.
Yes.
And did you notice that the opening scene of the movie, there wasn't a single cut until
Yes.
he went into the control room?
Yeah. That's nuts.
Yeah, it was really nuts. The amount of choreography that goes, you never see that anymore. What I thought was so cool about it is this felt like a movie that would have been made in the 70s.
For sure.
Or like almost even earlier than that,
Yeah,
like almost
early,
like
yeah.
a Cassavetes movie or something, or like somewhere between that and Robert Altman, with the big cast, the big ensemble, and the overlapping dialogue and a constantly moving camera, and the way that they used it, the way they used the film making and the camera itself to control the pace of the movie and tell the story. Like, the camera was another character
Yeah.
in the movie. You felt like you were a fly on the wall. You felt the anxiety. I mean, you felt I
Yeah.
guess it was effective. You felt it so much you almost threw up.
Yeah. The way that you're talking sounds like all my film classes when we're watching old like 60s movies, because they don't really have any cuts and it's a huge cast of people literally like performing some sort of seamless choreography, I guess you could say. And it feels almost like Saturday Night Live, like a stage performance, Broadway. Like there's something special about that, I feel like.
Yeah, there is. And it's not done enough anymore, I think, because movies are made so quickly and so rushed. And this also, like the production design and costume design were incredible. There wasn't a frame in this movie that didn't feel like whatever year it was, 1976, 1977, I don't know exactly. But if only there were a magical device in front of my face that could tell me what year it was. Okay, it was October 11th, 1975.
Okay.
Wow, that's cool. So we're seeing it almost exactly how many was that, 50 years ago? Mm-hmm. Whoa, that's wild. So 49 years ago was the first episode of Saturday Night Live. Can't believe they didn't wait for the 50th, but whatever. It was cool. I dug it. I love the filmmaking. The performances were made. The cast was ridiculous.
It was nuts.
It's a huge
I kept
cast.
seeing new people and like, how are they in this right now?
Yeah, it was wild. And also to think, like, I would love to look into how many days they shot this, because it felt like they must have filmed this movie forever.
Yeah.
Like months. And how they had that ensemble cast locked down for this long. Granted, Jason Reitman's a very accomplished filmmaker, but this isn't ever going to be like a blockbuster movie.
Yeah.
Oh, it feels like a festival movie.
Yeah.
I mean, it feels like a small movie that'll play art houses.
It's crazy to me that all of the cast, in most of the scenes, you could see a huge portion of the cast. Like they were all together the whole time. So I don't know. Like that's crazy.
I mean, it felt like they must have had them booked just the whole shoot.
They had to.
Right, or at least most of it.
Yeah.
Except for a couple of the guys, like Willem Dafoe, I guess, could have popped in and out. I was so happy when I saw him show up, by the way.
I always get excited when I see him in a movie. Like when he was in Beetlejuice, that was like relief for me.
He's showing up everywhere in really cool ways right now. Mm-hmm. Like in, what was the movie, Pretty Things?
Poor Things?
The Yorgos Lanthimos movie, you know what I'm talking about, with Emma Stone?
Poor Things.
Poor Things,
Yeah.
not Pretty Things. Buh, Poor Things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was awesome in Poor Things.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at my notes. I got really excited during that, like, I am Satan Spartacus moment.
Uh-huh.
When the censor was trying to cut them down and they all stood up and started saying, I am Satan.
Yeah.
Oh, a note here. So stoked when Willem Dafoe showed up. I love my notes to myself. I love how articulate I am. Oh, something I kept coming back to while I was watching this movie was how it kept serving as a reminder for how dangerous things used to be and how lame they are now. Like, we live in such a boring, sanitized time. But what's funny is, like, this seems like this rebellious, fun era sandwiched between boring times. Like when they go to the set of that other Milton Berle show where they want to get the lighting director and that guy quits, that looks so horrible and lame.
The whole time I was just thinking about how, like, who was it? Was it a lighting guy? Who was it?
Lighting tech.
Yeah, okay. So it was a lighting tech. And Lorne, he, like, goes there and he's like, can I offer you a job? It's, like, terrible pay. No, like, benefits, no guarantee of this ever working. And the guy, like, literally drops everything. He's like, I'm coming. Because he's just so over his job at this set.
And yeah, his job was as the lighting tech for this Milton Berle show. Milton Berle was known as Mr. Television and
I
what did they
actually
say?
didn't
Uncle
know
Milty.
who he was. I had to look him up.
He was like my parents' generation of big TV star back in the day when there was only 3 networks and you kind of just watched what was on, and there are all of these whack variety shows that, and you can see they do it so well. It's these dancing girls and like scantily clad dancing girls, and then this old man in the middle of them who's dancing with them, scumbag. But like the entertainment value is that every couple beats of the song, he makes a different stupid face.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
it's so funny.
Like, it sets it up as like that at that time in the mid 70s is what entertainment on national television was like. And then you get this thing of Saturday Night Live, which is like anarchic and postmodern that just comes on, and it's like a bomb that gets dropped in, because you have to think the counterculture had been going for a good, like if you count the beats, like 20 years, maybe a little longer. And then obviously like the hippies came in and then that got even bigger. But you've got this massive countercultural post-Vietnam movement taking place, and TV just hadn't caught up to it.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, like, boom, Saturday Night Live. So it gave me more respect, because I might get a lot of haters for this, but like I think of Saturday Night Live now as being pretty tame.
Me too.
It's kind of funny, because this was, to me, was a reminder of, wow, this actually was subversive and cool. And you think of, so the real Lorne Michaels was Mike Myers' basis for the Dr. Evil character in Austin Powers.
Weird. Okay.
That he was doing like a James Bond villain as an impression of Lorne Michaels, who was his boss at Saturday Night Live. So Lorne Michaels, my whole life, has been this guy who's been this like domineering boss of a show that used to be great. And it was great when I was really young. Like I was really young in the days of like Dana Carvey, Mike Myers. Well, you would have been young during like the Will Ferrell era. That was like the last era that I remember it being that great. Other than a little later, there was the Lonely Island era.
Okay, what is that?
Lonely Island is Andy Samberg's band that would do like digital shorts during it. But other than that, it's been like, it has not been the cultural mainstay that it was for a long time.
I remember when I was like 3 or 4, there was a Stevie Nicks sort of like skit, and I thought it was hilarious. So I remember like waking up to the TV being on and that playing, and I thought that it was funny, and then eventually over time it kind of just like shifted.
You want to know something even funnier?
Yes.
That Stevie Nicks bit, I think, was from when I was a kid, and I think we were watching reruns that you were seeing, or clips on the internet.
Yeah, I'll never forget that. But I think like what I really liked about this movie, and that served as a good reminder, to just like, it was very inspiring, I'll say that, because the whole time people kept asking him, Lorne, like, what is this? Like, what are we doing here? What is this show? Like, what is the show? And he didn't have an answer, and he kind of didn't need to have an answer.
Yeah, and when he finally was forced to give an answer, his answer was about what the feeling of it was.
Yeah.
He was going to bring the feeling of wandering around New York City in the 70s, and that sense that anything can happen to the rest of the country. It did that for decades.
Yeah.
It also was a really cool, to me, yeah, it was very inspirational. Also, just in terms of believing in your vision and getting other people to believe in it. There's this moment where everything's falling apart. Like one good example is they want to have the stage be real brick, because they want it to feel like the city. And they've got one guy that 90 minutes before the show starts has to brick this whole stage. It's impossible. And all the older like union guys working on the set are kind of messing with them. And they're like, no, man, we can't help you with the brick. That's a different union. They're down on the other floor. They can't make it up here in time. Yeah. And so he's just going to do it himself. And over the course of this, like we start off and like you had said, no one believes in Lorne. No one believes it can get done. Everything seems like it's falling apart constantly. But you see that like through his passion and the other people's passion, they kind of win everybody over. And the best moment to me, well, I'll get to the best moment, but the second best moment, and what begins the movement of the best moment, is where those other guys, those old guys that have been making fun of this bricklayer, actually stand up and start to help him, because they've all been watching these rehearsals and they believe in the show.
Yeah, I felt the same way.
And it was just a really cool representation, I think, of like the power of your own love for something and the power of, I guess, art to inspire people around you.
And I feel like each of the characters, at least in the cast, and even like the writers and part of that crew, had a moment for themselves where they realized that this was like all worth it. Who was the character or the actual person who studied at like Juilliard and was like on Broadway, and he's like, what am I doing here? And
Garrett Morris.
Yes. Like he had his moment, and I think that was like another good representation. And then also like with the writers from the show, there was one specific writer who, with the Satan scene, like he kind of just didn't care what the what is that person's job?
The censor.
Yes, the censor. I
Her
didn't know that that was a real thing, to be totally honest with you. He kind of
yeah.
go ahead.
No, yeah. So the censors, to explain what a censor is, it's somebody who makes sure that the broadcasting standards aren't violated. And you get to see in this scene how subjective and personal that is. It's the same thing with getting a movie rated, the MPAA. It's just a group of people that decides what your movie's going to be rated.
Yeah.
And that can determine how much money it makes, which is insane to me. And similarly, this person who had a religious agenda was hired to protect the standards and practices of the broadcast network, and she took it upon herself to inject her own morals into it. Mm-hmm. Continue.
I just I found parts of that really good because they still stuck with exactly what they wanted. Even Lorne was like, I don't care what happens. If this is funny, this is going to get laughs. Like, that's all that matters. Even if it's a little bit like PG-13 or like a little bit insensitive, like they wanted to go big with it, and that was really apparent with those scenes with the censor.
And she was like the first real resistance you saw them face, other than normal production troubles, like a light falling and some other problems. And they had a John Belushi was being a diva and kept disappearing on them, and like all those things seem normal, but then you realize that the network and the deck is truly stacked against them. It seems like everybody wants them to fail.
Yeah. And I had like some hope when they went into the room with all of the executives and higher ups, but then like you saw how they really were. Like they wanted it to fail.
Yeah, and especially Willem Dafoe's character, who worked for Johnny Carson. And so you realize at one point that there is, not only is there a ticking clock in the movie that you know that they've got to get to 11:30 and they have to air, but then you realize that the backup, if they can't pull it off, or if Willem Dafoe doesn't feel they can pull it off well enough, is that they've got a tape ready to play. And normally the tape would be the rehearsal, but for a number of reasons, it's a tape of Johnny Carson, so the show will just die. And they keep trying to get Lorne to push to the next week, to go live the next week. And at one point, Lorne lets them know that he didn't tape his own rehearsal, which I think is just like the most baller thing ever, to have that. Like, you familiar with the phrase "burn the ships"?
Yes.
So he burned the ships, right? There is no rehearsal tape. There is no backup. And that is the way that people succeed. And you see him do that.
The only way that you're going to succeed or do well is if you fully believe in it and you're willing to take the chances with everything for it.
Yeah, and this whole group was doing that, and that's what was so cool. And I think that, I don't know how much of this is accurate and how much of it is dramatized, but you have to imagine at least the spirit of this is true to what was happening.
For sure.
Yeah, I was curious, how many of the characters were you familiar with?
Not many. Chevy Chase. Yeah, I really I didn't know who they were.
And did that make a difference?
No, because to me, honestly, I don't care who is part of the cast of Saturday Night Live. I don't think that it really matters. There are some familiar faces, of course, but I don't know. I just, the overall vibe, it's like a whole big thing. So.
Yeah.
I knew Chevy Chase, though.
I can the actor playing Chevy Chase was really good.
He was so good.
And from the moment he walked in and knocked into that trash can.
Yeah.
And it was like, you knew who it was right when he stood up. You knew from his body language, not even from his face, not even from looking like him, just from his body language. You knew that it was Chevy Chase.
Yeah.
But that to me was, after every character is introduced, the novelty of oh my God, that's Billy Crystal.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's Lorne Michaeled. The novelty of that wears off so quickly, and then you're just engaged in the story.
For sure.
Because it does really kind of unfold at breakneck pace. But yeah, I'm interested to look into it more, look into what really happened and how that went down. Spoiler alert, they get to the very last minute. They've kind of fixed all their problems, but it's still chaos. And they're in the control room, and they're about to run the tape of Johnny Carson. And at the very last minute, at 11:29 and 59 seconds, the Willem Dafoe character says they're going live. And they go live, and we see the first couple minutes, which look like they're going to go bad. And then they start to go great. And that I didn't know, like having not known the history, I could have seen this being one of those movies where it gets to the end and they do roll the Carson tape and then they do Saturday Night Live the next week. Like that would not have surprised me. It was genuinely suspenseful.
I want to know if that actually happened, how accurate that like last minute was.
Yeah, me too. And who the executive is who Willem Dafoe plays. If that's a real guy or like an amalgamation of characters.
I know.
How were you with the suspense? I know you don't like suspense in movies.
It was intense. Like, I really did enjoy this movie, except for the fact that it made me want to bomb. Like, it was really exciting.
It was well done. Like, everything they did in this movie, I think, was done at, like, the absolute top notch. Should we see if the lovely people of Rotten Tomatoes and Letterboxd agree with us?
Yeah. Also, I want to mention that this felt very much like, I don't know, I feel like puppets are making a comeback. I mentioned this to you, but there are like puppets in there. And also it felt like Muppets, like the set and stuff, the scenes, like it all, like New York has a certain vibe, and it made me feel that so accurately.
Yeah, I totally did not know that the Muppets came from Saturday Night Live.
Yeah. I was shocked to learn
and
that.
I don't think they actually answer the question, because they give Henson a script, but they never really answer whether Henson and the Muppets make it into the episode or not. So I want to watch the first episode.
I was literally just going to say that. I would love to watch that.
We should do that. I'll find a link somewhere.
Yeah.
It's probably on Peacock. Okay, what are we doing first? Rotten Tomatoes or Letterboxd?
Rotten Tomatoes always.
Cool. And can I just say, this is the first episode that we have had Kai's audio set up to where we both sound like we are professional podcasters now. So if you're just joining, it took us 6 episodes to get to sounding good, and we will continue to make sure we look better.
Yeah, no, I keep changing all of my sources, but for some reason it would just go back to my computer audio, and now I know I have to switch it twice. So there's that.
Yeah, this is good. I'm enjoying the sound. Okay, Rotten Tomatoes, Saturday night, 1 hour and 49 minutes. So it's not quite real time, but it felt like real time. We got an 80% on the Rotten Tomatoes meter, but an 84% on the popcorn meter, which is audience score. So the audience is liking it more than the critics. We got a top critic here, Linda Merrick of Hey You Guys. She says, pitch perfect performances, tight script, and an expertly paced narrative. Saturday Night brilliantly encapsulates the chaos, innovation, and raw talent of SNL. It's stressful, chaotic, but above all, deliciously entertaining. Okay, here's somebody who didn't like it, of Smash Tomato, Abby Montiel of the Chicago Reader. After all, this is comedy coming from the first generation who grew up with television. That might have been true in 1975, but if you're looking for any of that energy in 2024, you'd be better off watching old sketches on YouTube. What does that mean? That's not a review of the movie.
No. I will say, though, I found that, the script, when they would read the script off, I thought it was hilarious. But when they were doing the sketches, I was, very confused on what was going on. I didn't find it funny. But that's just...
The actual... Oh,
when they were,
them...
blocking their scenes.
Yeah.
But that's
I think it wasn't really supposed to be funny yet, because they weren't live.
Yeah, I guess, but everyone in the crew was laughing, so I don't know. Maybe
yeah,
that's just me.
Adam Graham, Detroit News. But there's definitely something there that the show is about to tap into, and the movie captures the buzzing beehive, even if it often stretches credulity. Okay. Yeah, it seems like generally speaking, critics liked it, but don't have anything
original
too revolutionary to say about it.
Letterboxd.
I guess this one, Callum Cooper from In Their Own League says, if nothing else, Saturday Night is an amusing and rambunctious work of biographical comedy, one that champions creativity and innovation, especially in the face of an antagonistic status quo. That's a good summary. But we're only reading the summaries. We're not reading the full reviews because that would be boring. That's what's interesting. This is where Letterboxd is more effective for this format, of a
These are
podcast is
hilarious
that
reviews.
people. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Read some. Read me some funny ones.
Well, my favorite is that it's insanely stacked with white boys of the month, which I agree. That's true. A lot of people are talking about how it's entering a Lorne Michaels autumn. No more Brat Summer.
Brat Summer's out. Lorne Michael's Autumn is in.
Yeah.
By the way, on Letterboxd, I'm getting blasted with Halloween ads right now. And
Really?
it's tripping me out. Yeah. We've got somebody here. This is kind of interesting. I'm an SNL apologist. I hate when people trash on the bad years or bad casts because it's just the nature of the beast. I thank my dad for letting me watch it in the 90s sometimes, and I've been following religiously since college. But all of this to say, I can't tell you if this was a great movie or if I just really enjoyed watching one of my favorite institutions come to life. The ensemble was incredible, and all the tension going on was done so well. They made me root for young Chevy Chase. That's a feat all on its own. I'll be watching this one again and again through the years.
This person said the Old Testament for people who grew up with white liberal parents, and I feel like that pertains to that one.
Oh, we got a haiku here. I like when people... I've seen these haiku reviews before on Letterboxd. Dylan O'Brien, love of my life, funny as hell, please keep being in movies. I need him to smack my ass. It would probably fix me.
That
Well,
was a great scene. Dylan O'Brien,
Yeah.
another white boy of the month. There we go.
I didn't know White Boy of the Month was a thing.
It's a big thing. It's a big deal. There are so many in there.
Yeah. There were a lot. There was a lot in this movie of like, oh, I know that guy.
Yeah.
What else? Find a funny one
Wait.
for me.
Well, this one's good because this person says, I've never seen an episode of SNL, so I don't know much about the show or the story, but I thought this was pretty great. A chaotic movie filled with great performances. Saying it's like really electric, good scenes. I agree with that.
I like on... Oh, here's an interesting one. I want to be the next SNL cast member. Hard not to love this with how much I laughed, honestly. Cast killed it and the energy throughout was fantastic. They should make a movie about Smosh like this one day.
Yeah. I like John Batiste in it, and a lot of people are commenting on that. Was
He did the
awesome.
music too.
Yeah.
We've Someone says, I liked it when they told us how much time was left in the movie.
Yeah.
I like how personal Letterboxd reviews are.
Me too.
They're really not reviews. They're just statements.
But it makes sense. Like, there's still... It's kind of a review. Like...
Yeah. Oh,
It's
interesting.
What made
This movie was
a lasting
shot...
impression on you. What?
For sure. It's just a personal version. This was shot on 16 millimeter film.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
You know how I always talk about how I want to shoot a movie on film.
I know. Wow. That is really cool. I guess that gives it what gives it part of that grit of like the literal grain helps you feel like you're in the 70s, like you're at that time. So the question we always ask, who would you want to be?
I think I would love to be Lorne.
Why?
I think he had the most rewarding end to the movie. And also, like, he felt like the most relatable in a sense. They're all kind of nut jobs, even him, but yeah. What about you?
Yeah, probably Lorne. Obviously, he's the hero of the story, but I liked how hard he was willing to fight for not only what he believed in, but for the people who believed in him.
Also, what Rachel Sennett, is that how you say her name? Rachel Sennett? Her character, what is her name? His ex-wife, his wife.
Yeah.
She also had like a really great kind of come up, I guess. She like fully believed in it too.
Yeah, she fully believed in it. And their relationship dynamic was really interesting because it was sort of hinted at that she was like now dating Dan Aykroyd, but still married to Lorne Michaels. But like they didn't seem to have a problem with it because, as she explained, how their relationship evolved, they were basically just business partners.
Yeah.
Or writing partners. I miss the dangerous screwball sketch show. There needs to be a new one. Mm-hmm. You know, it's the first thing I ever made. Do you know this? When I was in college.
Yes.
Yeah, so it was a live show with live callers, and we had short films that played throughout, and it was a lot of fun. And I think the world needs, I don't think I need to make it, but I think the world needs like a dangerous ensemble sketch show that is, I feel like since we're in like weird sanitized digital, everything's a simulation of a simulation of a copy of a copy, I feel like our times need something that kind of shake people out of their complacency and really bring back that anarchic spirit, because I think it's within that kind of environment that you can really say something about the state of society.
For sure.
Which they did.
Yeah.
So where are you at? Where's your generation? Where's the 21-year-olds busting out a new Saturday Night Live? You have the whole internet that you could do it on.
Think about like all the podcasts I listen to, like H3. That's literally the same thing. They do sketches. That's how. I feel.
That's true.
I feel like
Maybe
we're in an era of podcasts and less networky television.
Right. It's more nicheified, and it's more, I guess the word would be balkanized. The centrality of three networks doesn't exist. So now it's happening, but it's happening in pockets.
I feel like it would be really cool, though, to have something that is like Saturday Night Live, in the sense where it's not overly niche or like hitting a specific target audience. Oh my God, I'm so popular. It's Aaron again. Sorry. No, but it would be really cool, because I feel like I have my friends who understand my humor and like what I watch and the podcasts that I listen to. But not everyone gets it.
But how could you bring that spirit to some? Do you think someone could? Do you think there is a version of this that becomes like a subversive version of a Mr. Beast?
Yeah, I think there has to be. There will be something.
We should find that. By the way, you're wearing a Peanuts shirt. It's really distracting me.
It's Velvet Underground Peanuts.
Wow. Speaking of niche, Kaya's wearing a shirt of the members of the Peanuts as the members of the Velvet Underground. There's a Snoopy Lou Reed. Why does this exist, and why do you own it?
I had to buy it. I had to. Would you pass up an opportunity to wear this shirt? I had to buy it.
I wouldn't, but it's the oddest mashup I've maybe ever seen. Like, who's sitting around thinking, I wonder which member of the Velvet Underground would be which member of the Peanuts, and now I'm going to make a shirt out of it.
I don't know. They're really cool, though.
What other cartoon band mashups could there be?
God.
Muppets Nirvana.
That would be really, really good. That's really good.
I would like to see Fraggle Rock. Fraggle Rock is niche, though. I feel like Fraggle Rock doesn't get the respect it deserves. They need to bring it back. Oh, go down the rabbit hole. It's got to be on Disney Plus. Fraggle Rock was like, I don't think it was Disney. What would have been HBO?
Fraggle?
Fraggle. Fraggle. Fraggle Rock was a great show with puppets when I was a kid.
They're in the Muppets.
I think they're Muppet adjacent. They're Jim Henson for sure.
They're in the Muppet movies.
Oh man, one time I had a meeting at the Jim Henson Studios, which I was so excited about, but because the Jim Henson Studios in Hollywood at the time were the old Charlie Chaplin Studios, and I can't remember what the story is exactly, but Charlie Chaplin's handprints are outside. I think they didn't invite him to put his handprints at the time at the Chinese Theater, and so he did it himself at his own studio. And you see that, and there's all this history. And I'm knowing this is Jim Henson, and while I'm waiting for this meeting to start, I can see that it's there's like Muppets hanging on a dryer rack in a window, like Muppets going through laundry or dry cleaning. It's so exciting. And then the meeting was with like the two like sleaziest Hollywood dudes ever. It was so disappointing. I was so amped up. But they weren't from Jim Henson. They just had offices in the Jim Henson building. But I don't know. My expectations were all out of whack, because I'm assuming like if you're in the Henson Chaplin building, like wouldn't you think that you would like respect that history and that you'd be someone who's like very artist friendly, or you at least actually care about movies? And it was not that. It was like definitely the worst side of people that you see in the film industry.
Wow.
The Willem Dafoes. Although Willem Dafoe ended up not being a villain.
Yeah, whatever.
He rolled the tape. He could have rolled to Carson, but he didn't.
This is true. See,
all right.
Muppets come back. Good era.
Muppets should. I think. Do you remember we saw the Muppets when you were little at the Chinese Theater?
I'll never forget it. It was one of the best movie-going experiences ever. Ever.
That was really good.
Yeah.
That was fun. Which Muppets movie was that?
It was the first one.
Well, the first of like the new iteration
yeah.
of Amy Adams and what's that dude's name?
Jason Segel.
Yeah, Jason Segel.
Yeah.
He's a giant movie star. I can't think of his name. I don't know why.
I don't know
yeah,
anyone
Jason
else,
Segel.
so I just remember him.
I remember the two of them and all the Muppets.
Yeah.
So what else? You have anything to add?
Just that we need to find a new SNL that's a little bit not SNL right now. Or something adjacent.
Yeah, I don't think SNL is the right platform anymore for today's SNL.
I don't think so either.
I think not as bad as this, but I couldn't help but think when they showed that Milton Berle show, what was it called? Rumpus Room?
Yeah.
When they showed Rumpus Room, I couldn't help but think that SNL today is now what Rumpus Room was then.
Yeah.
And that you need something to burst up from the underground. I mean, that's the best example that I can think of is somebody who has a mass reach, because SNL had a mass audience. And so how do you get the reach of a Mr. Beast, but actually be some form of like anarchic subversive art, not just trying to sell kids chocolate?
We should talk to Mr. Beast about this.
Use his platform to try to make underground art.
Yeah. He has a very diverse audience. He's kind of perfect.
Yeah, I wasn't trashing Mr. Beast, by the way. I was saying a show
No, never.
by making a show to sell kids chocolate. Like, that's just what it is.
Yeah, I have a soft spot for him.
I have a soft spot for Mr. Beast as well. I think whenever he's in hot water, which everybody who's a public person is at some point now in today's world, he handles it really well and really thoughtfully. And I also think that his show, while being like primarily a kids entertainment show, is super entertaining. And like, I love watching new Mr. Beast episodes.
I love Mr. Beast. I watch his videos.
Yeah. So how do you take his understanding of contemporary media and make something that's for an audience that wants to have their thinking challenged a little more?
I think he can keep his challenges in his game videos, whatever. But I think what it comes down to is the simplicity of like comedy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's the guy to do it unless
Definitely
he maybe
not.
like put it out. But like your Velvet Underground shirt, it makes me think of
mashup.
Like that's what you need is like the SNL was the television sketch spirit of the Velvet Underground. They even say that at one point, right? They're like, this. We want this to be Warhol.
Yeah, yeah.
What would Andy Warhol think if he saw the state of media today?
I don't think
He'd love it.
Really?
He would have a YouTube series. He predicted all of this.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
He would eat this up.
You think like
He
even
would-
the form of me, like, but how would he feel about TikTok or TikTokers or like that sort of?
He'd love it. He would absolutely love it. He would be turning it into some form of high art on his own. There would, like, I guarantee you, Warhol would apply his factory model to some sort of crazy TikTok output machine.
That's fair.
I mean, what are those hype houses? Those are
Yeah, how would he
just-
feel about that?
those are just like, that's what he did. He built the first hype house, the factory. Like, that's what he was doing. He was collecting people, and he was taking his vision and having all these other people, whether it was acted out or painted out, and he was like questioning. He really called into question like what art was and who is the artist versus what's the relationship to art and artist, and if he uses people as tools, is that different than using a paintbrush as a tool?
Yeah, I guess that makes sense because if we look back at this time, this era, like TikTokers, dancers, influencers, like that's going to be looked at as like an art and be more respected than it is now.
I also think whenever you're in a time period, you see everything. So you see the good and you see the terrible.
Yeah.
And the only things that last, that stand the test of time, the only things we'll be talking about in the future are the things that were good. So like, will there be TikTokers or YouTubers or podcasters? Will there be TikToks, YouTube videos, and podcasts that are specifically looked back on in the future as being like, oh, that was art, that was good, that changed things? How did that shift the culture? How did that shift that art form? Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
And it's just, I think that's like, it's hard to see the forest through the trees when you look around and all you see are digital trees and mostly bad. So
Yeah.
I think, I think there will be meaningful art that comes from these seemingly very temporary, very of the moment current forms of media.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. That's all I got.
That was a good note to end on. That's good.
Viva la
statement.
revolucion.
Yeah.
All right. Tune back in next week. We will have a very exciting episode for you. The plan is, this could change. Kaya has not seen Terrifier 1 or Terrifier 2, but we are going to see Terrifier 3.
I'm not watching
Number one
the
movie
other
at the
two.
box office. It's the number one movie at the box office. We can't ignore it. We have a journalistic duty to see Terrifier 3.
I'm going to sound so stupid in the next podcast. Whatever. It's fine. I already do. It's fine. It'll happen.
It'll be great. You won't sound stupid. And at least now, if you say something stupid, you say it with good audio quality.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
All right. Peace.